Welcome, everyone. I thought I'd do an episode today talking about some team stats. So, just a little trade deadline type trick we'll go over today. So, what I like to do is there's some really cool things you can see in this league leaderboards. And when I first started playing the game for the first couple of years, I literally never really looked too much into this stuff. I just looked at this main page. But what I like to do most now is the sortable stats for the players is here, and then you can set up all your views, which we talked about last video. But then the team stats is really neat. So click on the team stats tab at the top, and then you're going to go to both leagues combined. So it shows all the teams in the league. And then what you can do is you set up your view, or there's some default ones that show all the team stats. So there's the one I have set up for defense. You could just do the biz stuff. So you're going to go here and go highlight your fielding stuff you want to see. So you can see their team fielding stuff. Obviously, you can see the stuff here too. It's just this stuff isn't sorted. I always prefer the sortable stuff so you can see all three teams in a row without all the clunk in the middle. This way it's kind of hard to see like who's the league leader. You have to manually spend like 5 minutes and pay attention to everything. So if you just go to sortable stats, you can sort like stuff like this. So if what I like to do is a little trick for this video is just when it comes to the trade deadline stuff, you can see all their financials you want to see on this page. They even have some new stats now, the Park 25, like revenue sharing, luxury sharing, all that stuff. So I add to the right, but it doesn't even show up yet. But you can put anything you want on this page, and then what you're going to see is you can sort it by things like budget space. So say, for example, you are competing at the trade deadline and you're looking to unload some bad contracts. Say you're like in first place and you have a guy that's like a really good reliever that's making 10 million bucks, but he has season-ending injury. What you can do is you can see all the teams that have some free money. So say you just kind of say, okay, these teams and above, so Minnesota, Pittsburgh, Boston, all have at least like 15, 20 million free and a lot more. Some of these teams at the top. And then you're going to make a note of that. And then you're going to go negotiate a trade with that team, whether you're an online or offline dynasty. And you'll try to maybe trade a couple rookie ball prospects that have some solid potentials. And you can unload that expiring contract from your injured reliever because you're like, oh, he's not going to help me this year, and I really want to win this year, so I'm going to give up some future assets. So things like that. So you can just see a quick glance of the league leaders and who has the most budget space here, and you can see a lot about an organization from their financials. Just like in real life, you can really, if you're an accountant, you can really know how to dissect a company based on their profit margins and looking at all their financials. So we can see everything here. So it's really helpful if you know what to look for. So you can see which teams have high fan interest and which teams are low. You can see which teams are really in the red. Those teams might be desperate to, if you're again in the opposite situation where you're not in the playoff picture when it comes to July, near the trade deadline of July 31st, you're like, oh, this team is 14 million in the red and they're really hurting financially. So you can click on them and then go to their salaries, and then you're going to figure out maybe they want to unload some expensive guys, and you can probably get like a stud for that's like in this mid 20s if you are willing to take on some money, and maybe even send them cash. Like maybe you could straight up buy a prospect, send them $8 million of cash if you have a bunch of cash left over, and buy one of their DSL prospects or an A-ball prospect or other just like interesting deals like that. You can always flip assets. It's just always beneficial to know what's going on in the league. I know a lot of people power sim, and you're going to do like a full year at a time and sim faster. But you can still just come right to the screen at the end of July when there's a few days left for the deadline and just kind of glance over these things and just kind of figure out, like, you can see by some teams have like 35 million in development budget and some teams only have like 5 or 6. So you can tell these teams are really competing to try to win now because they're not putting much money into the future assets, which would be like scouting budget and development budget and things like that, and the draft budget. They are just more having it all in payroll. You can set up on Excel, you can see the payroll compared to the budget. So most teams are at, I think, like 70%, but you can tell the teams are really trying to win, where like 80, 85% of their money is of their budget is in their payroll. So they don't have much left over for the scouting, development, and all that. So you can just really kind of glance at this, spend a few minutes on it, and just really tell a lot about an organization. You can see the attendance they get. Again, we're really early in the year, so these stats don't matter too much right now, but just for your leagues, just really neat to be able to see some of this financial stuff. And yeah, I think in a future episode, we'll dig into the fun defensive stats stuff. But for now, I just kind of wanted to talk about that and maybe create a discussion internally with you and see if there's anything on this financial page that maybe you haven't taken advantage of when it comes to the trade deadline stuff that would really help you out as a GM. So anyways, that's it for this episode.